Are the synthetic ones dangerous?
Okay, so
Welcome to the We Got Problems podcast with co-hosts Curtis G. Martin, Rhonda L Brown, and Caliph Johnson Sr. The one and only podcast where solutions get discussed to our community's everyday troubles. Each week, you will hear mind-blowing conversations and actionable tips and strategies that you can implement in your daily life to become more effective. We got problems and we got solutions.
All right, you guys, welcome to the show. This is We Got Problems, where we discuss solutions. I'm Curtis G. Martin, and I'm here with my co-host, Rhonda L Brown.
Hey, everybody.
My second co-host, Caliph Johnson Sr.
Peace, y'all. How y'all doing?
And we have a special guest here with us today, Rashedah Henriqu. Rashedah, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so good. Thank you. I'm blessed and highly favored, and I'm appreciative to be here.
All right, why don't you go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself and what it is you do?
All right. So I'll give you a small, brief history, and I'll let you know what I do now. So my name is Rashedah, also known on Instagram as Sheedah3. And essentially, I teach people how to travel for free or either leverage their credit card points, miles, and credit card in general, credits in general, to essentially grow their business or even just enjoy the essential experiences of life. A little back history on myself. I'm actually a middle school math teacher. I teach 7th grade math by my 9 to 5, I guess you would say. So that's been always my passion. And I've always found a way to tie math, like especially middle school math and finances together, because that's really the basis of where you learn it. So it kind of like just spiraled me into wanting to know more about finances, education, and also like financial literacy, because I teach it to my students. And the more I teach it to my students and they bring those like homework assignments to their parents, I'm getting questions from their parents. So it just kind of like spiraled into me talking to adults, then having conversations with friends and family, and realizing that there's a void, there's an empty gap here and a miscommunication of understanding finances and credit. And I've been just here to just bridge the gap through the simplest way I know, which is teaching kids. And if I could teach a kid how to understand it, I could teach an adult anything.
There we go. So what is credit?
Credit, all right, there's 2 ways to explain it. The math way is credit is a positive thing, right? If you see your account, you see credit, debit. If something gets debited from your account, something is taken away. Something is credited to your account, something gets put back. So that's the math way of thinking about it. Now, in the world, credit is the ability to essentially leverage funds from financial institutions and essentially practice the habit of borrowing and paying back. The more you can borrow and pay back, the more they'll give you. So it's just showing responsibility on how to budget and how to actually create a pattern for yourself to leverage yourself for bigger projects in the future.
So, what's a credit score and what's a good credit score?
All right, what's a good credit score like on paper, or the one that people think that's good? All right, so what's a credit score? Credit score is pretty much just how the metrics measure your borrowing ability. So if you have a great borrowing ability and borrowing capacity to actually borrow and pay back over time, then you'll be in the more high 760s, 780s, 800, that coveted 800 score. Now, what's a good credit score? In my opinion, anything over a 720. It shows that you don't have too many negative habits or negative patterns on your report. So that was what I say is a good credit score. A lot of people think that a 660 is a good credit score. A 660 will get you approved for some items, but your interest rates are going to be crazy. So it's going to end up costing you way more than if you took the patience to actually fix the item or fix the report. And then now you can get that same borrowing ability, but for a cheaper rate.
Okay. Is it important to know laws about credit?
Yes. I think the more education and awareness you have about the financial institutions and the financial industry, the better and more sophisticated you'll be at making decisions. The more that I learned about it, because I mean, growing up, I have one of my aunts, she's pretty savvy. She's always had she has a house, she has a good credit score. She never had an issue being able to borrow money. But she told me when I was growing up, keep your card under 30%. Don't use more than 30% of your credit card. Then my father, who's pretty, you would call him financially savvy as well. He's like, don't have more than 2 or 3 credit cards, right? It'll get you into trouble. Ooh, that word trouble.
Yeah.
As I learned earlier, it's not that you can't actually use more than 30% of your card. It's that you can't let 30% of your card or more than 30% of your card actually report. So there's a difference between using and letting it report. I call it the snitch date, just because I deal with kids, so everything gotta be related.
Got to be relatable. There we go.
It gotta be related. You gotta be able to tie it back to something. So the snitch date, right? When does the credit card companies tell on you? When do your financial institutions tell on you? They snitch on you once a month. So technically, your report or your credit card statement, or even like your balances, even like loans, all of that stuff, they have a snitch date. If you have the balance low on your snitch date, that's what they snitch. So it's not that you can't use more than 30%. You just can't let it more than 30% report. And when I learned that, I went back to my aunt, like, hey, auntie, look. Because that's what she taught me when I was like 21. So for the longest, that's what I did. I would use cash once I got to 30% of my car. Like, I can't use it no more. It was just misinformation. So the more you learn, the more you're actually able to execute. Because since I started understanding this, my credit limits have increased tremendously. I'm over 6 figures in credit, just off of the fact that I understand when they snitch.
There we go.
That's all in educating.
Hey, so look, I often hear about our personal info that can cause problems with our credit report. Why is it important to clean up or fix our personal info?
All right. Another relatable comment, right? Nobody likes to look messy. Like, you don't even like hanging around with messy people. You're like, oh, you just too much drama. Like, get this. You like people who are neat. Banks are the same way. Financial institutions are the same way. So if you got 15 variations of your name on your report, like, who are you? Like, who is this person? If you got 15 addresses, like, yo, how many times did you move? If you got 15 jobs, why are you so unstable? Right. And if you got 50 million numbers, which we know people who change their number once a month, like, how can we contact you? Right. They want to be able to know that if they actually put money out here, they give you 30,000, 50,000 in borrowing capacity, they could find you, which is not always, they're not coming out here looking for you with the flashlight. But essentially, the cleaner you report, the better. One name, one address, one phone number, one job. Look stable on paper. It's like the person who comes to the party, they got a clean suit at a dinner party. But then you got the next person who comes in, they got on beach attire to come to a dinner party. That's not the appropriate attire for that event. So once you're able to actually have a clean report, then it will actually boost the way that your credit report looks to these financial institutions. And I will also say this, you also don't have to have the items on your report, but if you want to actually increase or multiply your borrowing capacity, it's good to have it there.
So what about inquiries? Do they hurt your credit score?
So inquiries affect your credit score within like the first 6 months. Because to be honest, it's just like this. Imagine you were on my analogies again. Imagine you on the block, right? And you guys, I want to say that episode of Everybody Hates Chris, where everybody's sitting on the porch out in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. And you see somebody, the dude that always asks everybody for $1. And he's coming around asking people for $1. Everybody keeps telling him no. By the time he comes to you, you're going to say no automatically, because you just said, why everybody just tell you no? The banks look at a whole bunch of inquiries in their first 6 months just like that. Like, why did everybody tell you no? Like, what is it? You look thirsty. So they don't like that. And per se, the more spread out the inquiries are. So if it's like after 2 years, they drop off anyway. But after a year, the inquiries don't affect you as much. But in the first 6 months, they do. Now, the trick is to actually know where the financial institution is looking at, to actually make sure that you can leverage your inquiries properly. A couple of banks, they don't look at all 3 of the credit reporting agencies. They only have relationships with like maybe 1 or 2. So if you know that too, you can strategically place yourself to actually be able to leverage and show less inquiries.
So second part to that, is there a way you can get them off before the 2 years?
There are ways. There are strategic ways to get inquiries off before the 2 years. Typically, you can actually use different consumer laws to get them removed, especially if they're not tied to open accounts. I don't typically recommend for people to mess with inquiries that are tied to open accounts, because it could get your account shut down. But there are consumer laws that you can use to actually get inquiries removed that are not tied to open accounts before the 2 years.
Okay. What about medical bills on my credit report?
That's actually a great question. So recently, they actually, after I believe it's July 1st, they're not supposed to report medical debt on your credit report anymore. Anything less than $500, not supposed to be there. And they have to, if it is going to be reported or posted, it can't be within a year of the debt, essentially. Because medical bills were getting people, to be honest, like imagine the worst thing happening. You get into a situation health-wise, especially with COVID, right? You get into a situation health-wise with the pandemic, and now you got medical bills coming to your house off of a pandemic that happened in the world. And you recover, but now you gotta, and it don't matter what the bill is. If it's a collection, it's a collection. It could be $50, it could be 25 cents, it could be $100, it could be $1,000. Now you got a collection report and you recovered from COVID, but your credit hasn't. And now you can't even go purchase a house with these low interest rates that they had, the low interest rates that they had because of a medical collection. And it could be $25. So I'm actually very happy that they did that, because it was an injustice to a lot of people that you're putting pain on top of suffering. And that's not essentially the American way, but that's not what you should be going through, especially when medical bills aren't supposed to be on your credit report anyway. So they ended up rectifying that situation. So after July 1st of this year, 2022, medical debt should not be reported on your credit report anymore.
How about public records like tax liens, anything put down for the court? Can we have that stuff removed off our credit as well?
Yes. So I mention this a lot because when I learned about it, I'm like, you mean there's other snitches? So there's a snitch date, and then there's these like little consumer reporting agencies that just sit there and they do what you call data mining. So they just sit there and collect information on you, stuff that technically shouldn't be on your credit report. And that's why I believe that if a consumer reporting agency will write you a letter and say that they removed this item from the report, they know they were in the wrong. So in that situation, when it comes to public records, there's companies called Pacer, LexisNexis. Pacer is the company that actually looks up bankruptcies. So, but you have to give these, let me put it like this. In America, our first right is our right to privacy, right? It's in there. It's in the law. It's in almost every law. You have a right to bear arms. You have a right to privacy. Officer cannot bust into your house without a warrant because you have a right to privacy. So these data companies, they go and they look up your information and they post it, then they sell it without your permission, right? So if you're actually able to opt out of these companies because they still have to have your permission. And because you didn't give them permission, you can also take away their allowances and what they have been doing. So companies like Pacer, LexisNexis, they just data mine and collect information on you, and then they sell it. But once you're actually able to remove that and say, I don't want you selling my information, you're not allowed to collect information on me, then they have to stop. And that's a lot of times how you're able to remove bankruptcies, tax liens, and even child support from your credit report. Because I feel like that's an injustice as well, because there's a lot of different things that people can and cannot do now because you have a child support account on your credit report. And that's like, what does that have to do with my ability to borrow? Has nothing to do with it.
All right.
Now, you should take care of your children. However,
Right.
it has nothing to do with my ability to borrow.
Right. So what about student loans? Do they ever come off your credit report?
So student loans have a twofold. Like there's a good and a bad to them. A lot of times it's the first account that people have on their credit report. So it holds a lot of age to people's report. You'll have a student loan from when you're 18. And if you're in a situation where you never learned financial literacy at all, then that's your first account. So now you're probably 15 years later and your oldest account is your student loan. So people say like, oh, I paid off my student loans and my credit score dropped. That's because your oldest account just closed. So that's one part of student loans. The second part of student loans is it actually also counts as a installment account because it's technically you have a term that you have to pay it for and you have to pay the same amount every month, technically, right? Now, right now, and I believe the waiver ends in October of 2022. If you work public service, healthcare, nonprofit work right now, they extended the PSLF program, the public service loan forgiveness. Now, in the past, they weren't actually approving people for the public service loan forgiveness. They weren't doing it. I know teachers who worked 20 years who still got loans. who weren't able, and they work in those areas. I want to say the Title IX areas, right? And those loans now, what they're doing is, if you worked from 2007 until now, once you have the 10 years or 120 payments, your student loans get waived, even if you have a balance. But what they're doing now is, if you actually worked, it's low-key like time served. So if you worked and made any payments at all, or if you worked in that industry and got denied before, or if you worked in that industry period, they're actually allowing people to use that as time served to actually help reduce their student loans. So that's just a bonus for y'all. But student loans aren't all the way back. Can you remove them from your credit report? Absolutely. They don't have to be there. But in my opinion, to be honest, if you don't have any negatives on the report, it's not really hurting you. If you don't have like late payments, like all over that report, all over that student loan, it's not really affecting you. The only time it really affects you negatively is if you have late payments on the student loan, because then now you have a late payment on installment account. So now it's affecting your report. The only other way to look at it too is it affecting your debt to income ratio? And that's if you're going to buy a house or going to get bigger loans and lines of credit, is it affecting that? But they kind of tweaked that as well this year, where instead of for a home mortgage, and I know I'm being a long-winded, but this student loan's got so many aspects to it. When it comes to buying a house, what used to happen is that if you had a loan, and I'm just say $100,000 student loan, they would count 1% of that loan towards your debt to income. It was actually disqualifying a lot of people from being able to qualify for mortgages, because then now it pushed your personal DTI over 50%. So if you made hypothetically $5,000 a month after before taxes, because they don't do after taxes, and then you had $100,000 in student loans, they're going to count 1% of that towards your debt to income. That's $1,000. So now you're at 20% DTI, because $1,000 and you make $5,000 a month, you're at 20% DTI before they even count any of your other bills. They're counting your car note, because that's reporting. They're probably counting your minimum balances on your credit card statements and any other installment loans that you have on your report. So whatever that difference is, up to 50% is what your mortgage can be. So if you're at, I'm gonna just use easy numbers. Say you're at another $1,000 in bills that you potentially have. So you make $5,000 a month. Your student loan 1% is $1,000, and then the other bills you have that report on your credit report are another $1,000. You're at 40%. So now your mortgage can't be more than $500 in order for you to qualify, because then that $2,500 puts you around 50% at your DTI, and a lot of banks aren't going to qualify you for more than that. So student loans, there's a twofold to it, but it just depends on what your situation is.
Mm-hmm. So what would I do for like charge-off and collections?
Charge-offs and collections, there's many different ways to attack those, a lot of different ways. Essentially, you can always go back to who is looking for the debt. So when it comes to collections, a lot of debt collectors, they do schemy stuff. And we always have to think about it. Why are laws put in place? Because something happened or something continued to happen that was affecting the people. And then they had to fix the problem. Debt collectors do schemy stuff. They'll call you at your job and embarrass you. My debt is not my job's business. I also didn't give you permission to call me at my job. They'll call you and say, we're taking you to court, to threaten you, and have no court documents in place. That's illegal. They'll call you at 7:00 in the morning. That's also illegal. So when it comes to the collection companies, they do a lot of fraudulent things already. So they have a law called the Fair Debt Collections Practicing Act. I can never say the acronym all the way. The Fair Debt Collection Practicing Act, that actually holds them responsible. And there's also a lot of state and local laws that assist in making sure that these debt collectors do not come after you in a malicious way. A lot of times what happens is these debt collectors aren't even allowed to practice debt collecting in the state. So how does it look? They're coming after you in Georgia, and they have no license to collect debt in Georgia. They're saying they're going to sue you. And how? The FTC has over 200 debt collector agencies that have fraudulent practices, so that if you actually have a debt on your report or a collection report from these agencies, it's very easy to get it removed, because the FTC already said that they do scammy stuff. That's one of the ways I'm able to get off collections really fast. I just go and look and see, are you guys on that list? Mm-hmm. Are you on that list?
There we go.
Find out real quick.
Hey, so you talked about these laws and these places that help us out. How can we file complaints? Because I hear people talk about filing complaints to get the people to actually follow the law. Who can I get to help us?
So the main bureau for complaints would be the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. All right. And so when people say the word credit bureaus, a friend of mine, he's very heavy into the law. And we were having class one time, and it was just like, yo, the definition of bureau in the FCRA, and when it comes to these consumer laws, is this bureau, not credit bureaus. They're actually credit reporting agencies. The only bureau is a Bureau of Financial Protection, which is CFPB. So that's where you will actually go and file complaints to make sure that they're holding them accountable. So once you're able to read, and I'm big advocate for reading. Like, don't sit here and let people pull a wolf over your eyes and say you didn't know. Don't let somebody just go, "Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know." They say ignorance is
Bliss.
ignorance is bliss, but it's gonna come to me when I'm not thinking about it. But pretty much, like, it's not their job to do your job. So if it's there and it's not hidden, you don't have to go through the Crash Bandicoot maze to go and find the key to go get this information. It's right there. I literally go on Cornell's website and I look up the laws all the time. 15 USC 1681A, 15 USC 1692G. I look up these laws and I read it, and I go and look up the definitions, and I get understanding of what these things mean, because I know it's affecting me and my people. It's affecting my clients. So the more I understand it, the more I'm able to help them. So if you have a problem, there's a couple places you can make your first complaint. You make a complaint to the CFPB, right? You can make a complaint to your attorney general in your state, because, like I told y'all, some of these collection agencies and some of these companies are not allowed to practice what they're doing in your state. So that's another place you can make a complaint. And the last thing you can make a complaint to is the BBB, the Better Business Bureau, right? Those are three places that if you having issues, that's not a coincidence though. That was definitely an accident. That you can actually go ahead and make complaints, and you'll start to see real traction if you want to actually dispute the problems yourself.
So what do you think about these credit repair gurus that claim everything is a fraud?
So I don't disagree with them when they can back it up with the law. Because a lot of times, how can I say this? A lot of times, even for myself, when I'm learning the process, I'm like, why would they want you to sign an NDA? And it happens a lot. I know a couple of people that actually went after financial institutions for soft pulling their report without their permission and got a check, which is like, whoa. I haven't gone through the process myself, so I'm not going to co-sign and say, but I've seen it, and I've seen the agreements they had to sign. And it's like, why would you want to hide that? Oh, because you don't want people to know.
Yeah,
so
we all be doing it.
Exactly. A lot of times that does happen. It does happen. Like, it happens a lot. They don't like to go to court for stuff because then it can expose what they're. To be honest, I've heard on the phone myself, a mortgage company pretty much asked the consumer if they wanted the account to be reported. So when it comes to it, if they understand the law and they can back it up and show me, because if you could read it and then I can understand it, because I have my dictionary here. Like, matter of fact, you think I'm it's heavy. If you got your dictionary, Black law, right? If I need a definition of a law word, I'm not going to Webster. I'm going to Black's law, because this is the definitions and this is the dictionary that they use in court. So when you're coming that way, then I can hear you. But if you're not coming any other way, then I'm not hearing you on that.
Yeah. Okay. So
there is a lot of fraud out there. I will tell you that.
Okay. Let's talk about what is manufactured spending.
All right. So manufactured spending is a lot of different ways you can define that. It's the ability to create or manufacture a spend on your credit or your credit cards without actually spending the money. Because if you manufacture something, you essentially make it up.
Mm-hmm.
So artificial spending, manufactured spending, that's essentially what that is. People are able to actually spend money without actually spending that amount of money on credit cards to gain different things, points, miles, credit limit increases, etc. So that's essentially what it is in like a nutshell.
Okay. Thank
All right. So what's some good ways to make money with my credit?
Oh, let's go. All right. So I was actually talking about this the other day. If you have an old credit card, and this is why it's important. People don't realize like building credit is important. They don't realize it until it's like, damn, I wish I could have did that. If you have an old credit card, 10 years, 15 years, even 8 years, right? And that credit card has a healthy limit, 5,000, 10,000. I want to, when I say healthy, I mean like adult limits. Like I can't go to this. I can't do anything with $500. I don't know. I will max that out in 5 minutes. Like I just can't. It's just, that's a baby limit. I call that Similac limits, Juicy Juice, Minute Sunny D, Sunkiss, Enfamil, Apples and Eve, Mott's, Capri Sun. I could go on for the longest. I'm a teacher. I got all of them juices in my house, right? So when it comes to actually making money off of these stuff and you got healthy limits, you can actually sell spots on your credit cards for people who need help with their credit. Maybe they don't have any credit, or maybe they need help or need age on their credit. They only got a credit card or a credit report that's 3 months old and they need some age. People will actually buy spots on other people's credit cards to assist them in filling in the data points that they don't technically have. Now, I wouldn't say that you should, as a person who's looking for what you call trade lines, to go buy 50 of them. But if you get 2 that are solid, at least 10 years, 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, if they have that limits, then you could actually use that to help build up your report until you can stand on your own. I call it like training wheels, right? When you first learn how to ride a bike, you might need a little bit of assistance. And if you're able to purchase that assistance, great. But once you don't need it anymore, you take it off and you start riding off into the sunset. That's one way. That's one way. But you could do that, and depending on the credit card, you could sell your spots for $500, $1,000, depending on how much limits you have. The older and bigger the limits, the more you can make off of it.
So how long would I leave them on there?
3 to 6 months.
Okay.
Let them do what they need to, because a lot of people go and get those trade lines because they need to do something. Once they're done with that, they don't need you no more. Take the training wheels off, right off in sunset. Then you go get a training wheels to somebody else and run it again.
So what's the process of personal and business credit building?
They're technically the same. It's just from different aspects. So personal credit, you start off with either a secure card or secure loan. Then you can build up to a credit building card. Then you can build up to cards that either give you different benefits or perks or even higher limits. And you can build up to my favorite, the luxury credit cards, right? And that's when you actually build up that relationship. It's like, all right, I got enough borrowing power, right? And then you have business credit. It's the same thing. Now you can do business credit 2 different ways. The first way, you can PG it, meaning you can personally guarantee your business based off your personal credit. And that's why I preach personal credit so much, because it'll look like, hey, this person can handle themselves personally. That means that business should be okay. But if you don't have good personal credit, it's like, well, you don't handle your personal business okay. Why would I give you money for your business? Like it's all about, it's all about logic. Then you have the non-PG way, where you will go and still do the same thing. But instead of buying age trade lines like you do for your personal, you'll actually buy trade lines for your business. So you can start accounts with small companies, Uline, Quill, Granger, and start building invoice accounts with them where you have to pay it off before 30 days. The quicker you pay it off, the better it is for your company. And they can report that you had on-time payment history because your business is brand new. Nobody knows you, right? Then you can build it up to other companies. You can do store cards, you can do gas cards. And as you use it, you pay it off faster. The faster you pay it off, the better your business looks. And then you start to build what you call a paydex score. Now there's different tiers, and the higher you move on the tier, the better it looks for your business, because then now your business is establishing itself without you. So there's personal, you get the training wheels with the trade lines, or you can build it up with your secure cards and build up that way. Or with the business now, you can do PG or non-PG, but either way, all you're doing is building credibility for either your social or your EIN.
Okay. So now we're getting into the business question part. Do you have an accountability partner, coach, or mentor? And if you do, why?
I have all three, and they're all separate people. And I have multiple mentors. I have an accountability partner. We talk at least once a day when it comes to my list. Like, yo, what are you doing today? What's the goals? Are we hitting our quarterly goals? I got a book. Keep everything in my book. I'm still a little old school, so I always write things down, cross it out. The satisfaction of crossing something out is just like, I don't know. It just does it for me.
My wife will do that for me. I know what you do. I know what you do.
Right across the line. So I have an accountability partner. When it comes to a coach, I have people that I want to say is friends on higher levels, meaning that they've acquired or attained a level of success that I have yet to reach, but I have the potential to reach. So I would call those my coaches, because we're able to talk, give and take, share information. Because I'm still I call myself, I'm on the worker level. Like, everything that I do, I'm actively doing it. So a lot of times when people say, "Oh, what are you doing with this?" And I'm like, "Yo, I'm actually, the stuff that I tell you how to do, I'm trying it myself first. Like, I'm going to execute it myself. I'm going to run the play too." So if when I speak something, I could speak of it in a firsthand experience. So those my coaches, they're like, "Rashedah, I see so much potential in you. You could do this in a third, this, that, and a third." And you explain things so well that are actually beneficial for you to do this, that, and the third. And they're still going through their journey. So I call those my coaches. Now, my mentors, I paid to be in those rooms. I paid to be in those environments. And I have multiple mentors. And I feel like it's very important, because if they can give you the roadmap to success to actually help you not make the mistakes that they did, they can help you make the most leveraged decisions, then why wouldn't I low-key pay for a cheat code? I think it's very, very important. Like, if you could get a guide, why go through the woods by yourself? Like, there's no pride in that. Oh, I did it by myself. I'm okay with saying I got help. That'd be like, hey, I'm Sheeta 3 and I got a lot of help. Thank you. I'm grateful for that, because nobody really goes through the journey by themselves. And even if you think you go through it by yourself, I mean, I pray every morning for spiritual guidance. So I'm never really going through something by myself. So if God provides people to help me, who am I to turn them away? That's not why.
Hey, so do you have a LLC, S corp? What type of business do you have, and is it in a trust?
Y'all came with the spice. I just want to let y'all know they did not tell me they was going to ask me today. Okay, so I have multiple LLCs and I do have multiple trusts. I'm still learning the process of like operating through a trust essentially, and I'm going to get to that level where what they call own nothing, control everything. I do believe in trust wholeheartedly. It's just navigating that world. I'm still learning, so I'm not going to say and be like, "Oh, you should do this, that, and the third." Like, I'm still learning it. I have multiple LLCs because I have multiple businesses, and that's the point is you have to have things separately. So I have Sheeta 3, the brand and the mentorship program. I have CSMR Solutions, the funding program. I have Fresh Start United, which is my credit repair business. Those are all separate entities. So you can't be paying me for everything. Like, it goes to separate businesses, etc. When it comes to trust, I do believe that one, you should get a trust as soon as possible. Whether you get it from a lawyer, whether you draft one yourself and then you get your paperwork signed. But I do suggest that you go and get one, and get one from a professional. Like, don't sit there on something you don't know to go get it done, because you never know when your time is going to come. Mm-hmm. So being prepared is, you can't say, put it like this. I was in a room before and they said, "Oh, you shouldn't get one till you're like 50. I said, "Who said you're gonna live till 50? And I wasn't being a downer, but I used to sell life insurance. You never know when, and I actually had clients that passed away. And after I left that job, I found out like literally like 4 months ago that one of my youngest clients passed away. Oh, wow. And he was not more than 34. Now, I don't know what his financial planning was. We did try to get him a policy. They turned it down. I don't know if he went and got one after, but you never know when your time is. So it's best to be prepared when you get the information, especially if you say, "Oh, I didn't know about it." But when you did you take action? And when it comes to trust, that's the best way to protect your assets. Because even that situation with Chadwick Boseman, his business should never have been in the streets. We should never have known what his asset split was, what probate court. We should never have known any of that. As much as we revered him as a king and as a black and black excellence and a black model for, you know, how you should be as a person, how he cared, how he showed, how he acted, how he held himself. We never heard anything negative about this man. So we should never have known his financial status. I should never know how much he was worth. And when you do wills, I say this all the time, your business will be in the streets. And that's exactly what happened. So when it comes to trust, you have a level of privacy that you don't have when it comes to will. So if someone was thinking about it, I suggest that you go sit down with a lawyer, attorney. There's get a feel for who you like. I'm not going to sit here and point out people directly, like, oh, go to this person. There are some lawyers that I do like, Sabine Franco. She's on Instagram as well. But I wouldn't say like, oh, okay, don't do it. Figure out what your assets are and get them tied into a trust so that when things do happen, if there's a situation, there's no decisions on where your assets or your financials should go to. Your children and your family is not arguing about it because you made it plain and clear.
Okay. So our next session is rapid fire. So these are just quick 20-second answers.
This wasn't rapid fire?
No. Rapid fire, quick 20-second answers. Just, whatever comes first. So
All right.
What's the most important thing you've learned in life?
Success loves speed.
Okay, if you could turn back the hands to the time to when you were 18, what would you tell yourself and why?
Jump in, figure out the rest later.
If you had to sit down, had a chance to sit down with one person, dead or alive, to have a conversation with, who would it be?
Oh man. Oh man. I want to say Malcolm X.
That's good.
Can I explain why?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, why was part of it. I just didn't say it.
I want to say Malcolm X because he was more of take control of your situation. Like I'm not always a person that's gonna sit there and say, "Oh, please help us, please help us." Like, it's not fair. It's like, I'm gonna make it fair for myself. And that's why his message kind of resonates with me a little bit more, is because fight for what you need and don't ask for handouts. Like, go get it.
That part.
And I learned that when I worked insurance. Like, that's the first job that I'd say, like, if I didn't sell a policy, if I didn't do my job, I didn't eat. So I had to kill for everything that I ate. And I didn't want, I'm proud in a way, but I'm not, is where, like, I had people around me saying, why are you doing insurance? Why are you doing insurance? And there's no way I'm gonna be like, nah, I'm doing this. I'm killing it. I'm gonna come ask you for money. So at all course of that, I was gonna kill every day so I could eat. And I wasn't gonna ask anybody for a handout. Like, I wasn't. And because I put myself in that situation, I was very successful at that job. And I learned a lot about it, where it's like, I could kill my own meals and I'm not going to ask for handouts. I'm going to ask for information. So don't hold back the information from me, because we all know once you get the information, then I can implement the same things you do. And I'm going to go even harder because you've been hating on me for so long.
Yeah.
All right. People always say you should save money and invest. What type of assets do you invest in?
I invest in stocks. I invest in insurance. I invest in the same things the banks do, in property. Let's be real. They take your money out and they do what they call fractional lending. So only 10% of your account is actually in your account when you look at it on their standpoint. They already sent your money out by the time you finish that deposit. So why wouldn't I do the same thing they do? I'm going to run myself like a bank.
Okay. What's one tool you use in your business that makes it run totally smoother?
I'm learning to delegate way more. So learn to hire quickly, fire quicker, and learning to delegate. That's as you grow a business, and I have to learn it the hard way. You can't do everything yourself, and you can't start the business with you doing everything yourself. So build out your systems from when you get started, so that when you grow and you start to scale, as you should, you can just plug people in place.
What's one book you would recommend for somebody that's trying to get started in the entrepreneurial world?
That's hard because I got a couple. So I want to say my first one I would say is Who Not How. I think it's by Dan Sullivan, because a lot of times we think about what I can do myself and not who can help me, because we want to be independent, or I did the whole process by myself, when that's really not true. Another book that I would say is The Alchemist, and that's only because that's a book that got me started on reading, and it pretty much, like, it helps you to dissect your own personal journey. So, like, what path are you on? What journey are you taking? And what legacy are you leaving? So once you figured out that, then it will help to direct who you're going to be as an entrepreneur.
What's your best tip for making our community a better place?
Stop being so selfish. I say that all the time on live. Like I go live every day. My first streak, I went live for 7 months and 5 days. And a lot of times I'm like, yo, I'm giving out a gem, go share this out. And people be selfish. Like, I'm gonna keep the tip for myself. Why? It's on a public platform. Like, don't be selfish. If you can teach somebody something that can help them, teach them, right? But don't teach them to a point where it becomes a burden for you. And that's where I essentially had to come up with my own mentorship, because I was helping a lot of people, but I can't sit there and answer questions all day in a free flowing form, like
in the same question.
Exactly. Like, but if you come to my mentorship, I answer it every Sunday. So when it comes down to it, like, don't be selfish, invest in yourself, because to be honest, you are your best investment. And as you grow, don't feel like I want to say this. A lot of times we want everybody to come with us. And to be honest, we've all been in this skeptical world for so long that when the light shines for us, we feel like it shines for everybody. And that's not the truth, right? You could still be, Trash Vegan could still be in the dark, but Rhonda's in the light. And you always want to make sure that you're bringing people along, but not at a detriment to yourself. So what I would say is, don't be selfish. You are your best investment. And then make the show a good one. So if people are watching, make sure that you show them the good, bad, the ugly, because then essentially once you reach your peak or your success, they'll be like, yo, how you did that? But they've been like, don't think that they're not watching. They're waiting to see if it works for you. So don't worry about bringing them along with you, because it's going to distract you. Just work on you, and they're watching the show. And then when they're done, you just let them buy a ticket.
Okay. How do you balance it all? Business and your personal. How do you balance it?
Time blocking, and I'm still working on that myself. Time blocking. When I get my best days, I wake up really early, and I'm up before everybody else. And I kind of involve the family that can be involved. So I run a lot of plays. Sometimes I'll tell my nephew, like, my nephew has great credit. He's a 750 and he's 19. He's like 30,000 in credit. I've been teaching him since he was 17 about credit. So he's very savvy. So when it comes to like, yo, I need you to go do this project, he'll go do it, because now he understands it. He's learning at the same time. So when it comes to balance, sometimes you might have to involve, and you do have to take breaks. Like God said, work 6 days, rest on the 7th. Don't think that you're going, if God said to do it, like, don't play.
That's a perfect segue. So how do you celebrate your wins?
Eat nachos. No, I'm joking. How do I celebrate my wins? I pray about them, and I'm very grateful. Like, I'm very grateful. I feel very blessed and fortunate to get as far as I have, because a lot of times I didn't have the faith in myself or the ability in myself to go ahead and do it, and say that I could do it. Even talking on here, like, there was a point in time, like, I'm not doing podcasts. Like, I don't know how to do that. I remember being afraid to be on live, and now I'm on there every day. Like, I'm very fortunate and blessed. And I just, I say a prayer. I'll scream, I'll shout, I'll bump out some Barris Hammond, I Feel Good. That's one of my favorite songs. And that's how I celebrate it. You're not gonna really see me out here like drinking crazy. And
well, something we like to do is plan a trip or something that we normally wouldn't do after we have a big accomplishment. Like, something we did was we all started a business together, and we started this podcast together. So we met up in Vegas and took us a helicopter ride and just enjoyed it together, right? Like, so it gives us that feeling of accomplishment, so we can go out and kill something else, and then let's do it again. Let's go enjoy something else again.
I'm going to Jamaica tomorrow. All
right, there we go.
So last question, where can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Shedah3, SHEDAH3, where that name came from. My name is Rashedah. My family calls me Shedah. My jersey number in college is 3. Really simple. On Instagram, on TikTok, it's The Real Shedah3. And on Twitter, it's Shedah3_.
All right. So what's one thing you want to leave the people with?
You are your best investment.
All right, cool.
Whether it's books, mentorships, or just even educational seminars. You are your best investment.
All right, Rhonda, what you want to leave the people with?
Get your credit right.
There we go. How about you, Trash?
She the 3. Tap in with this queen. She got you.
Yep. I'll just say, hey, credit is a big thing that's been missing in our community. And if you need your credit repair, you guys get with She the 3. She can help you. She know a lot about this financial situation that's going on. She can help you raise your credit score, teach you how to make money off your credit, and then we can move our community in the right place. Hey, you guys, this is We Got Problems, where we also have solutions, and we out.
Peace.
From the team at CRC Empire, we want to thank you for listening. To stay connected with us, like, share, and subscribe to the We Got Problems podcast. You can find us on social media platforms at Curtis Martin 247, at Rhonda Wrights Official, and at the_trash_vegan_. We got problems and we got solutions.